everyone, and welcome to today's episode of the 401k Marketing Podcast. We are joined by our esteemed guest, Laura Garfield, who is the co-founder of Idea Decanter with a decade of business experience. So congratulations on that very, very important milestone. Most businesses do not get to say a decade of working.
I think our businesses are tracking about the same, right? Doesn't 401k marketing go back about a decade?
Yeah, we just celebrated a decade as well. So cheers.
Cheers.
Well, thank you so much for joining today's episode. Well, let's dive right in. Short form content. That's what people are talking about today. Where is it at? Give us a background.
I mean, have you ever heard that people have the attention span of a gnat? I think that short form content is proving that point. And I've seen it driven by TikTok. And as much as anyone in financial services kind of cringes at the finfluence kind of advice that's happening on TikTok, the short attention span that started there is spreading, because then you started to see it on Instagram, where folks who are more not aged, more into their careers, more deeply into their careers, maybe hanging out. Mature. The mature audiences might be hanging out. Then you saw it happening on YouTube and really expanding. What we're seeing is content, vertical content that's under 60 seconds is getting preferential treatment right now on YouTube as the algorithm pushes out that content over long form content. And I don't know if you've noticed it, but now in beta over on LinkedIn is an entire video platform that's focused on shorter format content. So if you haven't started thinking about what that means in your marketing strategy, it's probably time to start.
The reels, as the kids say.
Yeah.
We do A/B testing a lot and here at 401k Marketing. And this year we did 2 15-second loop commercials, because LinkedIn's algorithm will loop something if it's less than, I think it's less than like 30 seconds, it loops it. Yep. And then we did longer. We did also short form content, but it was like 1 minute and 15 seconds, give or take, which does not loop. And then we compared contrast, like likes, engagement, views, because as you said, more and more folks, the attention span is compressed.
We have clients who we have posted very similar content on YouTube as a long form piece that might be 15 to 30 minutes, and then something that's under 60 seconds. And the original content might organically get a couple of dozen views, and the short form content will get over 500 organically. Wow. And these are people with very few subscribers to their channel, kind of a small universe on YouTube. Yeah. So statistically, you're going to get seen more right now, especially on YouTube and Instagram, if you're focused on that vertical short format content.
All right. Well, let's, so I think the audience, we're talking about video today, why advisors should be considering video marketing. Is this something that you want to work into your marketing strategy, which is why Laura is joining us today, because she's an expert in video content and video marketing, specifically in the financial advisor space, which is where you've focused the majority of your business over these years. So if I'm an advisor, listening to today's video podcast, or watching today's video podcast, or listening on the audio component, what is the best way for an advisor to use video?
Well, I think you have to get beyond the FOMO, the fear of missing out of video, and think, what am I really trying to accomplish? And video can be a powerful tool if you are trying to build your authority online, if you are trying to grow your practice, communicate with prospects, communicate with clients. Video is so powerful because it delivers so many more messages than any kind of other digital content. You can hear the tone of voice. You can see facial expressions. And there has been this evolution that really began probably in the late teens, but got accelerated through COVID, of the audience beginning to prefer to consume content as video. So you want your message heard these days? Video is where it's at.
Have you given any coaching on a prospect email sequence with video?
Yeah, video worked into what we call the lead funnel, or a prospect email sequence. Can be really powerful because it gets you to sitting down together in the first meeting, whether it's virtually or in person, and a prospect saying, hey, I feel like I already know you.
Love that term.
And it's a really great place to start a conversation where your trust level is already built. There used to be a standard in marketing that it took 7 brand touches before someone would make a move. I've seen recent research that suggests that's more like 30 these days. I mean, soon it might be 300. We're inundated with messages and brand touches throughout our day, thanks to social media. But if you can keep, making an impression, and then you're top of mind when the prospect decides, like, now is the time for me to make a move, then it's perfect. But when it comes to actually creating a sequence for that prospect, I think there are a few things to consider in the messaging. And the first is the pain point. So what's going on in the prospect's life that is making it the right time to reach out to you? And then if you can create a message around that pain point, as soon as the prospect watches it, they'll say, well, I'm in the right place.
Sure.
The second really powerful message you could create in a sequence is proof. And if you're in a space where client testimonials are approved, creating a story about a happy client who had a problem that you helped solve is another home run way to kind of precede that prospect before the meeting. And then the third P I like to consider before the meeting in a sequence is getting personal. So while I always think about a prospect as an egomaniac, which probably comes off as negative, the reality is that we all do really want it to be about us. And so much of your messaging really needs to meet the prospect where they are. But in order to build trust, it's also important to remember that people do business with people. So sharing a video about why you do what you do, where you get a little bit personal, can be just sort of the third thing in that sequence that can have a major impact. So pain, proof, and personal.
And do you put that in one video that you're sending, or are these multiple videos?
That would be multiple videos. So kind of 3 different touch points.
Okay.
I love that theory in email marketing that an email should only have one job. And if that job is to get the recipient of the email to watch a video, the copy needs to be really short and to the point. And then the video needs to be relatively short because of our attention span and to the point. So talk about pain, their pain, how you help solve it.
Nice.
Share a proof story.
Yep.
Get personal.
Great advice. Love it. Cool. All right. Transitioning from email marketing to websites. What about video on website? It was really popular like a decade ago, where you had, the homepage and had some sort of, video component to it. Had slow load times, which was a big deal. But now, what's going on? Is that still important?
I think the user journey to your first meeting is still typically through your website. So even if someone is following your content on YouTube or deeply engaged on LinkedIn or getting all of your emails, and really following along. Typically, there's a stop on your website before they take the next step, or actually through your website to make the next step. So while I think 2014 to me was sort of the beginning of that wave of, wow, we should put a video on our website so people can really know who we are and what we do. Now it is almost table stakes. So if someone's going to stop and compare you to someone else, they're going to get to know you through a video on your website in a way they can't do if you don't have that. So super important. And, it's a little bit of the playing the algorithm game too, because search still prioritizes websites with video on them. So if you're creating content for somewhere, for an email sequence, for a specific social job, figuring out a way to incorporate it on your website still makes a lot of sense.
When you think of the traditional website structure, you have your header, and then there's usually some copy and like a picture. Would you recommend that instead of that picture, it's a video that someone could just click right there and get to know you?
Yeah. I mean, why not? The higher it is on the page, the more clicks it will get. I've seen advisors create great content that they do bury in like the 8th section of their homepage.
Right.
And it's really relying on people scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. You've seen that change in websites as we began to hit them more on mobile than on the desktop, that more information is crammed onto the homepage of your website. But the higher you put the video, the more visible it is.
Great advice. We kind of talked about this, but let's expand a little bit more. What type of content works best?
Well, the short format content is great. The getting personal content is fantastic. Client testimonials, since the SEC ad rule changed, if you're allowed to do testimonials, there are still a lot of advisors who are freaked out, trained by decades of not being able to do them. But those can be very powerful. I think beyond the what's working is putting it to use. We talk in terms of this CPT, which is create, promote, and track. And I've seen many advisors out there who either on their own or with some help can do the create phase of video marketing, and then they drop the ball. And you really do have to have a system in place in your business, whether it's you or you're tasking someone on your team to do it, to routinely put the videos in all the places. So we typically recommend using YouTube as your video library. So you're building out the resource there. And then, as we were just talking about with your website, plug that in for SEO and for driving people to your home turf. And then push it out on any social platform you have. You want to do that natively, which means direct uploading the file to any platforms you're on. And people feel scared that they have to be in all the places all the time. And I think it's much better to pick a single platform like LinkedIn or like Facebook or Instagram, whatever best fits your target audience, and really get good at that platform. I'm doing an interview series called The Real Finfluencers, where I'm interviewing advisors who are out there kind of killing it in video marketing on their own. And one thing I'm routinely hearing from them is they're not trying to be all things to all people in every place. They're picking a platform or two and really dedicating time each week, like to the extent of calendaring time to spend not just posting their own content, but going there and interacting with other people's content. So that you're building an audience and a community and people who want to see what you're sharing.
Excellent. So pick one or two You don't have to do all of them. You don't have to be the next blogger, the next 10Xer or TEDxer. You don't have to be on the TikToks. Pick one or two that you really like, that you feel that is the plan sponsor audience is on, the director of HR audience is on, the CFO, CEOs are regularly looking at, and then dive in specifically to that. Great advice.
Yeah, and probably, I mean, from those audiences, LinkedIn is the answer, wouldn't you say?
Yes. LinkedIn is the answer. Context.
Don't worry about the TikToks.
Yes. For as much as they're really fun and addictive, but we don't have to worry about TikTok today. Tomorrow is different.
Think in terms of TikTok content, though. The vertical, the short format, the hook. We've been doing a lot of research into what makes people stop the scroll on social platforms. And it is the first 3 seconds. And that matters what's coming out of your mouth and what visually is happening in the video. Yes. So never make the mistake of introducing yourself off the top. Start with a question, a surprising statistic, anything that would catch your viewers' attention and make them stop and listen.
Yep. Stop the scroll. Really important. AI. Everyone's talking about it. It's like the cool new thing. And it's changing a lot of everything in a good way,
Yeah.
Technology is technology. It's how people use it. So what are some of the latest and greatest inventions, ideas, trends that are coming up in video and AI?
I do think AI has been a game changer, and it feels like just this year it hit main stage. But really, if you think about it, AI has been building in the background the technical capabilities of different platforms that different businesses rely on has improved and improved. When we started our business in 2014, I remember we hired someone to go back and transcribe the interviews we did on video so we could go and pick the sound bites to weave together stories. And I think today, 10 years later, wow, I drop a video file of an interview into a platform, and 6 minutes later, AI has transcribed it pretty accurately. I mean, there are mistakes, but it has made such a difference in that area. The tips and tricks that you could share with using ChatGPT or Copilot to simply take ideas that you have in your head and help you shape those into social media posts or blog posts can be a really powerful tool. It's a much better tool if you give it better inputs. So the more information you can set up, this is my target audience, this is the tone I would like to see, and then realize that whatever it generates for you, then you can use as a starting point, and tweak it from there, make it better and make it your own. When it comes to video, I think we're on the doorstep of the opportunities to use AI in really unique ways. I've been keeping close tabs on Sora, which ultimately we will be able to type into the platform, hey, I'd like to see a cat skateboarding down the road and make sure that there's some pine trees next to the street and no cars going by. And, you'll be able to generate video that looks pretty cool. That is still in the works, but I can't wait to see where it goes from a video standpoint.
Oh my goodness, all those B-rolls. The times that you scrolled through B-rolls just to get no more hand shaking, right? Another one of those. But if you have something super creative, like a cat board on his, signing on the dotted line.
Yeah, I think it changes the whole stock imagery world when you can dream it up and AI can create it for you. Yeah. There's a lot of copyright questions still out there with where AI is pulling
Mm-hmm.
from, but I'm sure as it evolves, those things will get worked out.
We were creating a investment guide for one of our clients, and he's a big golfer, and I wanted a beaten up golf bag, so something that's been on the course a long time, and I wanted old, and I'm not going to get this 100% correctly because I don't know a ton about golf, but I wanted like old wooden clubs next to some shiny irons. It was like a compare contrast type investment guide, and Adobe stock did not have the exact thing that I wanted, shockingly. But on Adobe stock, you can switch over to AI generated imagery. And I like typed it in. I was like, old leather golf bag with wood clubs and new shiny irons. And it showed up. And I was like, and I sent it to the client. I was like, hey, does this like look weird or are these accurate? And he was like, that's really cool. Like looks great. And it had a mountain vista in the background. It was very pretty, like good sunlight. And so we used that as the cover image. And that was a still. But as you said, pretty soon video will be right up there as well, which will be really cool to see how.
I mean, the tool you're recording with us in today, there is a button you can press at the end and say, give me a short format video, and it will pick out 5 different under 60-second sound bites from the interview.
Oh, wow.
And create a video for you that you can go and share. And we've played with this tool too. And I find that oftentimes, just like with creating a blog post with ChatGPT, you do need to have the oversight, go back, look at the soundbite it picked, trim it up on the ends, make sure it gets to the point you were trying to get to. But the fact that that can happen in under a minute, has the potential of saving people so much time. We had a client create a video, an advisor for his clients who wanted to talk about how AI is going to impact society. And he wanted us to create the first half of the video with him as an AI generated avatar. And it was a tool we'd never played with. But all we had to do was input his headshot, type in what we wanted him to say.
Wow.
And voila, there he was saying it, which is from a deep fake standpoint.
I was just thinking that.
Pretty creepy. He did have to verify on his end that it was him. So I think the platform had some guardrails built into it. So you couldn't just input a picture of, Taylor Swift and have her proposing to Travis Kelce. Your dog loves that idea.
Well, it's our office corgi and Amazon package delivery. But we could take Murphy's head, the corgi, who's barking like crazy, and we could have a talking doggy. That could be kind of fun. Next podcast, who knows? Man, and again, it's going to continue to evolve, and new ideas are going to pop up, and the marketing or business development campaigns that we did 10 years ago are definitely not the campaigns we're doing today. And 10 years in the future, they're also going to be wildly different. That's the thing about business, and it always evolves and changes. And I think if anyone ever is looking at their business and are like, what, how can I have a new avenue of growth? If you haven't every couple of years, gone out and looked at new ideas, there's an opportunity there.
Absolutely.
Video being one of them. So I'm going to kind of stick with that kind of concept, that marketing isn't easy. But we know from experience that consistency is always key. What are some ways to stay consistent with video as things continue to evolve?
Well, I think leaning on an outside partner helps. Hiring someone to project manage you. If staying on track yourself is hard, realizing, what is the best use of your time. So outside help is not a cry for help. It's actually a smart strategy. Also, batch recording. So I mentioned I'm doing this series of interviews with different advisors who are leveraging video. And it's a repeated theme that comes up that they set aside time.
Mm-hmm.
Someone I interviewed today said, I calendar out my Tuesdays or my content creation days. So 4 hours a day, he realizes I'm going to be kind of planning my messaging, recording a couple of longer format videos for YouTube, recording some short stuff. It probably sounds daunting to say I'm going to dedicate 4 hours in a week to content creation, but actually doing it that way gives you more of a buffer as you consistently start sharing it out, so that you don't have to be trying to be in the moment and record on the fly, and like actually putting some structure into it can really help with consistency. And I'm sure you see that all the time at 401k marketing.
Yeah, we plan everything out and are very much planners in that regard. It's just easier. Like if you're running a business and you plan what you're doing throughout the year. And right now we're working on our 2025 editorial calendar for all of our different clients. So it's, they'll have it in the next couple weeks. And then now they know, oh, this is what we're doing for the year, which makes business planning much easier. And then if they want to sprinkle in other things and other ideas, great. We've already put together the architect, not the content, the architect for the year. And then when things change, like Secure Act 3.0 or whatever else comes down the pike, we can adjust a couple things here and there, but the big strategy doesn't change. I'm just such a big proponent of planning, because then it makes your life so much easier. Juggling all those things in the air.
I'm the kind that like pushes at the idea of too much structure, but it did not take me long to realize that actually putting together a content calendar helped you stay true to your intentions. We have a process for all of our clients called a playlist, and it's very similar to what you're describing. It's just scheduling out, Q1, we're gonna record 3 videos, and these are the topics tentatively.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Just like a financial plan, these can change, but having that roadmap helps you stick to it.
So true. Well, Laura, if anyone wants to contact you, learn how you can keep them structured and planned in an organized manner for video, how can they reach out to you or get more information?
A great stop is our website, where we do have some video on the homepage, not to surprise you. It's Idea Decanter with an ER.com. And at ideadecanter.com, you can find a spot to schedule a meeting. If you want more information, there's also a great demo button you can press and watch a video where I walk you through kind of how we structure video marketing and make it easy for you to build your authority and grow your practice with video.
Well, thank you so much for joining today's podcast. And if anyone does have specifics on video, you know where to go, ideadecanter.com. So thanks again.
Thanks for having me.